Hello, this is Chiak. We are back again with another
It's
set
a pool of seawater.
You'd
think that it'd be a bad idea to have a pool inside a library on account of the moisture. But I guess magic makes everything possible.
Yeah, we're playing The Longest Journey. Oopsies.
The water's pretty cold.
Am I? Don't imagine there's anything to hold that. Stairs.
It's stuck.
I can hear the sound. Nope. Is there anything that we can use? I don't think so. Yeah, okay. Let's head back up.
Oh, goodness, it's you again. Oh, you gave me such a fright.
Could I see some more books?
Oh, certainly. What a silly question.
A book on the history of Mercuria would be interesting.
Ah, an extensive subject, to be sure. I will do my best.
I don't quite remember exactly what books I'm supposed to be reading. Spear Gorimon, I remember. Something about the scriptures? Apparently, Vestrum Tobias had volume 2? Or something like that?
I did find something of interest. I'll leave it here for you to read.
Okay. Let's have a look at this book then. Travels in the Northlands by Jermaine the Discoverer. The first part. In my many years as a traveling poet and bard, I have journeyed far and wide across the fair realm of Arcady, and I have seen sights most people have not dreamed. I have stood on the magnificent and terrible southern capes in the midst of a winter, when the storms are at their fiercest, while waves as tall as the towers of Altaban washed over my frozen body. I have witnessed the monstrous beast that lurks in those dark and deadly waters of the south swallow brave gallons whole. Creatures the size of the mountains that with the flick of a tail can touch the depths of the sea and the stars themselves. I have crossed the great ocean from north to south and from east to west, and in the course been stranded on desert islands with no sustenance but what I could gather from the sparse vegetation for months at a time. I have ridden the giant Elgwin across Changagrel, the wasteland, from Altaban to Monturba, and further south where the Turek, the oasis, are few and far between. And I have seen the shifting dunes above the ruins of Gorimon, precious jewel of the Bakshavan Empire, concealed for centuries by the coarse and treacherous sand. And I have journeyed far west, carried on goodwill and destiny by shadow ships, to the strange and unknown cliffs of a world unseen by most, a world of unfamiliar tongue and customs, a world of great wonder and mysticism. I have seen all this and more, but the fairest sights still I have seen in the lands of the north, from Araid, I can't say that, to the border mountains, from Tyrin to the Bay of Fire. No sight can ever compare to dawn at Mount Tyranny, looking out at the plains of Nedrai, where wild stallions, I'm so struggling to read this, run free in the thousands, and to look on the city of Coruscant, the Pearl of Fire, while the boiling sun sets in the ocean beyond, the slow waves reflecting dark yellow and red as they lap slowly upon the sandy shores. It is an experience truly treasured and near forgotten. These lands are blessed by the Creator, shaped by men, yet wild and free and fertile, home to the greatest cities, the most precious sights, and the most cultured and civilized people in Arcadia. Of all the fires I have rested my weary legs by, of all the taverns I have learned the legends of tale spinners and memorized the songs of bards, of all the lands where I have wandered from city to village, is to the Northlands I return time and time again to learn evermore. Join me now, for I will evoke in you the very emotion I first experienced when visiting the sights and treasures of the Northlands. Join me and I will surely bring you here to the exotic myths of this blessed land, and you will pine for its rugged coast and green woods and its hardy people, and like me, you will ne'er rest until you can return to yonder shores. Oh no, still more to go. Mercuria. O Mercuria, thou unkempt diamond, of capitals thou art by truth the fairest. Thy counsel many seek for knowledge, kept within its centuries sought and gathered by men wiser than the ages, brought hither by word of mouth. Mercuria, change thou not the course of war between thine people? Diplomat, wise man, magician, all this and more, thou hast without equal, the mark of merit and virtue. The august capital of Arede, the unified country, Mercuria lies on the hardy southern coast of the Northlands, halfway between Tyran and Coruscant. It is a port of call for merchants, traders, adventurers, and pilgrims from all four continents, a place of commerce and diplomacy for millions of humans and the other species. Arede is, I can't say any of these names, okay? Is a strong and proud land perched between the plains of Nadra to the north, the land of the Tyran to the west, the Great Sea to the south, and the forests of the Northlands to the east, and inhabited by humans, Dalmari, Tyran, Mole People, and Veneer. Arede was formed by Mercuria after Mercuria emerged as a major center for diplomacy and trade and became the banner under which the surrounding lands united as one. Arede is a democracy, currently held by the Chief Council of the Arede flag, Lord Yvan Delen. The High Council, composed of the ministers who govern by representation, resides in the Mercurian Hall of Assembly, flanked by the palace and the barracks. The Aredes are traditionalists and form of government, and their form of government has barely changed over the last few millennia. In High Tongue, Arede means unification or assembly. Mercuria is one of the largest cities of Arcadia, the capital of Arede, and a center for trade, diplomacy, and cultural diversity. Populated by a large variety of races, from human to Veneer, Mercuria has grown from its origins as the birthplace of humanity to a city of all Arcadians, the hub of the civilized war. Founded 20,000 years ago at the shore of the then unconquerable ocean, is the first known permanent settlement of the emerging human race. Initially left to its own device by more developed races, Mercuria grew large and fat and wealthy. With newfound confidence, it passed through a period of expansion which gained it a reputation as a merciless aggressor, which soon brought violent attention from the Tyran in the west and the Dalmari in the north. After years of war, Mercuria was decimated and subsequently rebuilt with sufficient reinforcements to weather attacks from both sea and land. Peaceful times followed upon Mercuria settled into the role it has in today's Arcadia. Although all surrounding areas fall under its jurisdiction, there is sufficient self-governing and few central taxes to appease all but the most disgruntled. The huge areas of farmland around the city benefit from the well-kept roads, markets, and the busy export to other lands. Nearby villages benefit from the military might of Mercuria, protecting them against roving barbarian and tyrant armies. And Mercuria also provides the people of the Northlands with one of the best and busiest ports in Arcadia, allowing travel to distant destinations around the world.
Let me take that back for you.
Okay, I think there's one more book we're probably gonna have to read.
Oh, goodness, it's you again. Oh, you gave me such a fright.
Could I see some more books?
Oh, certainly. What a silly question.
I'd like to read some Arcadian folk tales.
A favored topic of mine. I have just what you're looking for.
Okay. Now we just have to wait for him to walk to get the book in the same place as usual, and then walk back to us. Wow, my throat's like really getting dry here.
I did find something of interest. I'll leave it here for you to read.
Okay, let's read this book. Sadra the White... Can we turn back? Yes, we can. I'm just curious. Children of the Lake. Okay. Let's read this then. Sadra, the faithful wife. Sadra was married to a brute of a man named Kare. You know what? I'm just gonna say Care. To a brute of a man named Care. Ironic. He was a bully who drank, cursed, gambled, and beat up his wife when he'd lost coins at the cups table. Still, Sadra treated Care with respect and care. Maybe it's Kare. It sounds weird saying Care. Kare with respect and care. She fed him when he was hungry, she made his bed and washed his back, and she laid down with him when he told her to. She never complained of her hardships to anyone, even though some days she woke up with bruises all over her body. Despite her husband's treatment, Sadra was a beautiful woman with lovely dark hair and green eyes, and men would admire her when she went to the market for food, or the town well for water. But none dared approach her, fearing her dangerous husband more than they admired her beauty and grace. People would say, "Poor Sadra, she deserves better than what she has. She is so good and patient even though her husband mistreats her every day." But no one was willing to do anything to free her from her husband, as they all feared his wrath. "She chooses her own path," they would say, "and it is not our duty to interfere." Then one day, a tall and handsome prince rode into town to visit with the elder council. When he spotted Sadra carrying 2 heavy buckets from the well to her home on the edge of town, he was taken with her beauty and youth, and he jumped down from his horse to help carry her buckets home. On the way, he offered Sadra courtship, but when told she was already married, he bowed respectfully and excused himself for acting inappropriately. That night, Sadra's husband heard about the prince helping his wife, and after striking her down for letting royalty interfere with her duties, he strode drunkenly, for he had already had his usual fill of dark ale, towards the tavern where the prince and his cohorts were staying. When Kare arrived at the tavern, the prince was eating dinner, and when told Sadra's husband was there to see him, the prince stood and waved the man closer. "I must congratulate you on your good taste in marriage," said the prince. for your wife is the most beautiful and good-hearted woman I have ever met." And then he offered Kare a seat and a tall mug of ale. But the angry husband did not appreciate the prince's advances, and he drew a sword and lunged at the prince before his guards could react. The prince was quick and lucky to avoid certain death, and before Kare could make a second strike, the prince had recovered his sword from where it stood by the wall and stood ready to fight the brute. "Leave him be," called the prince, when his guards drew arms and ran to protect their liege. "This is between him and me." Smiling briefly, he nodded his head to Kare and stood to attention. Obviously, his skill with the sword was formidable. Kare, a coward at heart, knew that if he fought fairly, he would surely die, and he sheathed his sword by loosening the knife he had tucked up his long sleeve. "My pardon, prince," said Kare. "My love for my wife is such that I am blinded by jealousy. I offer you friendship and apologies." He extended an open hand to the prince and smiled a broad lizard smile. The prince, unaware of Kare's mistreatment of his faithful wife, smiled back, put down his sword, and extended his own hand. "Your apology is accepted, sir." Then suddenly Kare's knife was in his hand and moving in a blur towards the prince's exposed throat. Had it not been for the quick eye of a nearby guard, who with the broadside of his sword struck Kare on the side of his head, the prince would have been dead. The knife carved a deep scar in the prince's shoulder, but did no serious harm. Kare was taken to the town prison to be judged. When the sun rose, his crime was surely punishable by death, especially as Sadre would testify to his cruelty in front of the judge. Free of Kare's tyranny, townspeople now spoke of Sadre's suffering by her husband's hand, but Sadre would not herself, even now, speak against her husband, and instead of being sentenced to death, Kare was sent away to work the king's mines for 25 years. Taken with her faithfulness, the prince yet again offered Sadre courtship, but again Sadre declined, for she was still a married woman. Then, 1 year later, Kare attempted to escape the king's mine by killing 2 guards and climbing the walls, but he was shot down with an arrow and died in agony and disgrace. Again, the prince visited Sadre's town, bringing condolences and a renewed offer of courtship, and this time Sadre agreed. Months later, the prince and Sadre were married in a glorious ceremony, and when the old king died, the prince became regent, and Sadre his queen. She was as good a queen as the land had ever seen, and she loved dearly until the day she died. Oh, it's not done yet. And her funeral was the grandest and most tearful in memory. The children of the lake. There was a village by a lake where no couple had borne a child for 20 years. The villagers were desperate, for without children their village would wither and die, and they turned to their god for help. The next morning, 50 young children rose out of the misty lake and wandered onto the shores, much to the joy of the childless woman. "We are yours," said one of the children, "as long as you remember one thing. You are never to fish from this lake again. Instead, you must learn to hunt in the forest and live off the land." The villagers agreed, though they worried they might go hungry, since they were used to catching and eating fish from the lake. But it didn't take long before they had taught themselves to hunt and grow wheat and potatoes in the fields. 18 years passed, and then one day, an old man grew tired of rabbits and deer and potatoes and bread, and he longed to catch a big fish and cook it over a sizzling fire. He took his boat out to where the villagers would not see him, and he sank his line. Almost immediately, he caught a large trout. But as he was rowing back to shore, he saw the children of the lake wander from their homes back into the dark waters from whence they came. Their mothers called for them, tried to hold on to them, begged them not to leave, but they would not speak, and one by one they disappeared into the lake. The old fisherman then saw, as the children sank into the murky waters, how they turned into large fish and sped off into the deep. He was shameful then, and dropped his catch back in the water, but it was too late, and the village would forevermore remain childless.
Are you done? Let me take that back for you.
So I have to say, I did all this reading, but I'm not quite sure I remember what I should be doing with this reading. Conversation logs. Keeper of the library. There's no, interesting, there's nothing for Vestrum Tobias. Okay, either way, it's not like I have anything to hold the water at this point, and I have nothing to really turn that wheel. So I guess next thing... Well, not so much the next thing since we didn't complete the first thing, but... we can find the... I just realized that thing has a really creepy feature to it. You can try to find the UN girl or guy. Wondering... Lobster merchant. Let's head to the docks. Maybe at the ships? Yeah, there's only ships in the small pier.
Assorted cargo.
Someone wouldn't happen to come by looking for work, would they?
Hello.
Uh-huh.
Do you know anything about a god that fell from the sky into the sea?
Of course. You find fallen gods most everywhere these days. They're an air and a hand.
Really?
No, of course not. There are no fallen gods in the sea. It wouldn't make much sense, would it? If the sea was full of gods just lying about the seabed.
So you've never heard of such a thing happening?
Now you got it.
Bye.
Okay. Let's head to the small pier, and with that, I am actually going to end the set here. So, thank you for liking if you liked, thank you for commenting if you commented, thank you for subscribing if you subscribed, thank you for favoriting if you favorited, and thank you for simply clicking on this video. And until next time, guys, see ya!